What kind of a YouTube skeptic would I be if I didn't address Steve Shives at some point?
Here are 5 toxic things about YouTube atheism.
I doubt it.
Number 1, it has a sexism problem. Many of the most popular atheists on YouTube are brazen anti-feminists who insult and belittle women and men, but mostly women, who speak out against gender inequality.
Straight off the bat with a problem. Feminism is not women any more than Nazism is Germans, or Stalinism is Russians, or any of that sort of thing. The atheism community is also heavily Venn diagram split over with the skepticism community, and that means people within that community are skeptical. Feminism is an ideological position, and like other ideological positions, it is open to scrutiny. Scrutinizing it is not sexist. Doubting the things that it claims is not sexist. Being skeptical towards those claims and examining them and testing them for their any veracity that they might have, none of this is sexism. The community does not have a sexism problem on that side of the community. It does have a sexism problem on Steve Shives' side of the community, because if you happen to be male, your opinion is devalued. Anyone who's a skeptic, anyone who is familiar with logical fallacies, should be able to see the problem there. It's the ideas that matter. It's the facts that matter. It's the logic and reason and evidence that matter, not whether the person saying it has a penis or not. So this one, that's projection.
Number 2, it also has a racism problem. And it's the best kind of racism too, the willfully oblivious kind. One of the most subscribed to atheists on YouTube recently made videos espousing his views that, for example, black Americans who speak out against racial injustice are part of a victim cult.
And rather than address anything he said, you misrepresented him and presented anything that he did say as racism, which is another part of the problem. Again, the atheism community is also, in large part, the skepticism community. And just as there are many problematic claims within feminism, there are many problematic claims within race activism. Being skeptical of these, examining these, getting the full information, examining the statistics and so on, none of this is racist. Right? Doubting the claims of Black Lives Matter or whatever other group you want to talk about, that's not racism. That's a process of skepticism. And if these ideas that they propound are examined and they survive examination, then they're stronger, then they're more important. Then we can say, yes, here is a genuine racial issue that needs to be addressed. And that's a good thing, right? But if any and all criticism is instead alchemically transformed into racism, we get nowhere. The ideas do not get examined, and we cede the ground of the discussion, as we do with the feminist issue, to extremist people who are genuinely sexist or racist. We need to have these conversations, right? It makes sense. And again, it's the idea that matters. And again, we do have a racism problem, but it's on Steve Shives' side. If you're white, your viewpoint gets dismissed. And again, if you have even passing familiarity with logical fallacies, the process of reason, then you know that that's simply not valid. That is fallacious thinking. Color of your skin does not make any difference to the value or the veracity of any point that you might make. And subjective thinking is bad thinking.
Number 3, it has a religious bigotry problem too. The ugliest religious bigotry in the YouTube atheist community is, of course, directed at Muslims, who are commonly stereotyped as potential terrorists and whose religion is viewed as inherently worse and more dangerous than any other.
And global statistics and the content of the religion would seem to bear that out. Again, we have to have these conversations. If we do not have these difficult conversations about Islam, about Islamic terrorism, about the attitudes displayed in the Pew survey to be endemic in the Muslim community, even in Western countries, then we're giving that ground and that conversation to the far right, and they will not mince their words. They will not be rational. They will not be reasonable. They will say terrible, awful things, and they will genuinely be bigots. Examining a religion, examining the statistics, being skeptical, this is not bigotry. It simply is not. You've got a category error there. And we have to have these conversations. We have to admit this is the problem. And being surprised that a community of skeptical non-believers is hostile to religion, why wouldn't it be? What the fuck are you talking about? Of course it is, but it's not bigotry. It's not prejudice. It's post-judice.
But there's still plenty of judgmental condescension left over for Christians and religious folks in general. Many YouTube atheists will still cite belief in God as evidence of mental illness.
With good reason. It is. Many psychological textbooks and so on, references and guides, make exceptions for religious belief. But this is such an egregious and obvious case of special pleading, it shouldn't even need pointing out. Okay, if I combine together a few definitions of delusional disorder, what we find is a fixed, false belief in something held in spite of and/or against evidence. Tell me how a religious belief does not meet that metric. Tell me how it isn't delusional. And tell me how delusional is not a mental illness. All right, it might be unpopular, it might be nasty, it might be a mean, horrible thing to say, it might cost you friends and so on, but that doesn't necessarily mean that it isn't true.
Number 4, it's addicted to drama and conflict.
That's YouTube, that's the internet, that's the human species. Obviously, if we exist in opposition to certain beliefs, or if our criticism and skepticism towards certain beliefs is taken as an attack, then we're going to be in a situation of conflict. Big whoop.
Number 5, it reflects poorly on the rest of the atheist movement. Ever wonder why, with a few notable exceptions, YouTube atheists are not invited to address secular conferences or represent atheist organizations to the public?
Relative lack of exposure and fame. I mean, there's a few exceptions. Aaron Ra, I suppose, though he's drunk the Kool-Aid. TJ's been on the news a couple of times. A few other people here and there have been who are also involved in YouTube. But, you know, if you're big on YouTube, you're a big fish in a small pond. You don't have the same kind of contacts in general as people who are heads of organizations or whatever have. You know, if some news reporter goes online and looks for an atheist organization or something, they're not going to find YouTube. But does the YouTube atheist community reflect poorly on atheism as a whole? There's a few people that do. There's a lot of people that don't. I think people like Steve reflect very poorly on the community because they're an example of someone who claims to be atheistic, claims to be skeptical, but does not apply those values, that logic, that reason, that evidence evenly over their lives. I mean, you can see, if you go and look at the full video, he's just swallowed ideology hook, line and sinker. He's taken to othering people he used to agree with and who are still consistently applying those same standards. That, to me, that is what reflects poorly on the community. If we succumb to the same issues that we criticize in others, the blind faith, the selectivity of evidence examination, all of those things, that's what reflects poorly on the community for me. Well, like I said, what would I be if I didn't reply to Steve Shives? Take care, guys.